Well, it'll be 6 months and about 2 days of living in Panama. If I had to start all over again, and what would I do differently? Would I change everything? No, but there's some things I definitely probably wish I would have done differently in this move. And it's not necessarily that I regret, but you learn. I have a different perspective now that I'm actually on ground because, of course, I just didn't plan to move in 2025. I've moved because my circumstances changes so drastically. I felt like, hey, I needed to move now. I wasn't going to wait. And so in February, I kind of was mulling the idea over and didn't move until July. So now that I'm here, what would I do differently on this move? Coming to this country that I had never seen before, just kind of talked about it, thought about it, and had it as a retirement plan without actually doing anything towards moving here. Even though I had lived in other countries, what would I do different? So this perspective is based on I'm here. I enjoy being here. I have no regrets of being here. I've met friends. I have community. I love where I live. Absolutely love the weather. So it's not that I would do something different because I'm unhappy, is what I could have done better. So let's kind of think about it that way. What I could have done better. So first is my apartment. While I adore and love my apartment when I'm inside, I love the fact that I am in a walkable neighborhood. I come out and I walk to the nail salon. I can walk to the supermarket. There's a store that's very similar to Costco. It's in walking distance, 10 minutes. I can walk to church. That's 10 minutes away. All kinds of restaurants, from small coffee shops to small bakeries to five-star restaurants, are all in walking distance. Shopping, stores. So absolutely love the location that I'm in. Uber rides to most of the places that I go range between $2 and $3. So no regret on that. My view is terrible. So that is one of the things that I'm not very happy about, because I am facing a parking lot. And I knew that. I absolutely knew that when I was coming into looking at the place. I knew that. So my regret is that I didn't take more time looking for a place to live, that I didn't take more time looking at more and more apartments. And I'm a little impatient like that. I don't like shopping. I'm not a person who normally would go into to the mall and go from store to store. I'm not just like a big shopper. And so looking for an apartment is shopping. And so I would say I regret that I didn't take time not to look at more apartments, but really stay true to myself and what I wanted. And I did want a better view. I don't like my view. I did want a bigger bathroom. I don't like the size of my bathrooms. But one of the things, even though I'm not super happy about those things, I always say that you're not just renting the apartment, you're renting the landlord. And because of that, hands down, I am okay in this apartment. My landlord is so supportive. She's always there answering calls. If I need something, locked myself out of the house the other day, and it was my landlord who came and sent keys for me to come in. She sent her keys so I can get in. And so for those things, those are so important because, I am in this country. I am by myself. I came by myself. And so having a landlord who's supportive to come and fix things when they're broken, then it kind of takes over from the fact that I have this really yucky view. And since I do have a balcony, I can also fix it up any way I want to make my view better, which I've done already. I bought some lights and put them all over it. So that is something that I also regret. And that also could also come from the fact that maybe understanding a little bit, I got rushed a little bit because I noticed that there were so many expats moving in. I knew that apartments were going to be scarce and I knew prices were going to go up. And when I hear expats say things like, oh, this place was only blah, 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 was it so cheap compared to where I used to live, I knew I was going to be in trouble in getting myself a very competitive rate or a very fair rate, because people were flashing foreign currency all over the place. They were looking for apartments at rates that were just not really market rate. They were just so busy looking at what they were used to pay and how much money they had coming in, and not really paying a lot of attention to what the current market was demanding. And from that, with that flood of expats coming in, flashing money, I knew that my time was going to be very limited on me getting something what I call affordable, which was in the budget that I had. So I actually was about $300 under my budget. Super happy about that. And that was great for me. So that, I would probably say, one of the things that I would have done differently. I would have probably taken a little bit more time in looking for a place, and giving myself a little bit more grace in what I was looking for, and stood my ground. The other thing I probably would say is I would regret is I didn't do it soon enough. Now, I know I didn't plan for it and I just kind of took the leap, but it took me months to take that leap. And I know for some of you who are planning 1 to 2, 3 years out, when I had that urge in February, I should have just got on a plane and left, because all I did was sit there and think about it and mull about it and wonder about it. And should I do it? Was this the right time? Doesn't make any sense. But I wasn't taking any action. I was just kind of thinking. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go on a scouting trip. Oh, I'm going to go in March. Oh, something came up. I can't go. Oh, I'm going to go in May. Something came up. I couldn't go. So finally, that is why I wound up going sight unseen, is because I got sick of postponing my scouting trip when I knew I was going to go. And so I just said, heck, July 23rd, I am out of here. And I would have went even sooner than that, but a good friend was having a birthday party that I had to stay back to attend. So my regret was I didn't go when I knew I was going. I knew I was going to go. I knew I wanted to live there. No, I had not been there before, but I also knew that even going without seeing the place, that I was going to be okay, because I knew that it had the infrastructure that I could live with. After living in other countries that lack infrastructure, I knew that having infrastructure was going to be a win for me. So I kind of regret the fact that I didn't go sooner. And with the other regret, I probably would say, or the thing I would do differently, so I wouldn't say regret, but the thing I would do differently was, I probably would have done a little bit more research. I did nothing. Nothing. I didn't research anything. All I knew was it was called Panama. I knew that they spoke Spanish, and I knew that there were some black people there. The end. That is all I knew. I didn't understand anything about the culture. I did not understand anything about the fact that Panama was a big city full of skyscrapers all around. I did know that they were going to be using the US dollar. I did not know really about how much things were going to cost me or not cost me. I just kind of created my own budget and knew how much money I had and how much money I was willing to spend every month. And so that was helpful to me, but probably some of the expectations I had around the fact that they spoke Spanish was very false, because I had it all mixed up between Spanish and Hispanics and Latins and who would have this kind of food versus that kind of food. So I would say for me, those were probably the things that I would have done differently. I would have moved immediately, done a little bit more research on the culture, and probably a little bit more research on where I wanted to live. But what I did was, as soon as I got there, since I had not been there before, I had a list of cities already that I thought I wanted to live in. And I spent a day in an Uber just going around to every city, getting a feel for it. And that's kind of how I decided. So that's probably what I would say that I would do differently. But when I did that, even with that, I feel settled. I feel so much like I made a great choice for myself. Even though I would do some of those things differently, I don't feel that any one of those things are probably what you would say, a deal breaker. I don't want to get out of my lease early. I don't mull and cry about the fact I could have left sooner. I feel like even though I didn't do the things, I would do that differently. Absolutely no regret in doing that. And I felt like because I knew I wanted to go and I knew this was for me, I was emotionally prepared. I was okay. I am so okay being by myself. It's almost scary to me, right? So I spent a lot of time at home, in my house, taking care of a lot of things for me. And I go out and have a great time. But I also was very okay with being in the house, being by myself, being away from my family, being away from my friends. I was okay with that. And I think that's a big thing that most people have to get a hold of and a grip. Are you going to be okay when no one else is going to be around for you? You got to be okay with that. So for me, I would say if you're thinking about moving, absolutely, you are not going to have everything in line. You should have some kind of plan and structure. That's what we love to do with our clients, in giving you a structure and giving you a step-by-step plan. It's all the steps I did. I just didn't do them before. I did them once I got there. I did them as I was living there. And I would say also, don't wait for other people's validation. Now, I wasn't waiting for anyone to validate that it was okay for me to move, but everybody was starting to ask me, why am I moving? Am I sure I'm moving? Asking me so many questions. Now, if I wasn't the person who I was, it could have caused me to back out. And it may be the reason why you're also delaying, because everyone else is getting into your head. Is this a good idea? Are you sure it's a good idea? You've never been there before. Do you know how much money you're going to have? Aren't you going to be lonely? What happens if you get sick? What if? All those things kind of get in our way sometime of moving. But for me, since I had already lived in several countries, I didn't get a lot of, are you going to be okay? It was just like, are you sure? Are you sure you're going to do this? And so I want you to not wait for other people to give you the high five and approve, because they may never will. They may never, ever think that what you're doing is a good idea. I just want you to create a timeline. And although my timeline went from like February to July, I wish that in February, when I thought about it, when I was like, I wanted to move, I would have done it. So you go ahead and do that. Create a timeline for yourself. Go ahead and put a date on the calendar when you move. Don't tell the whole world that you're thinking about it. They're going to have opinions that sometimes don't necessarily agree with you. And just remember that everybody's path is totally different. Yes, I moved sight unseen. No, I had never been there before. No, I don't know anybody. I didn't know anybody until I got there, and it worked out great for me. They may not be for you, right? You may need to do research. You may need to go on a scouting trip. You may need to have someone in our collective, be in our collective with a community of women who are supporting you. Everyone's path is different, but most of all, choose the path that works effectively for you. So this way, even if you would do something different like me, you won't have any regrets. That is what I want for you. I'm Sable, your bougie girlfriend, and I want you to continue to live an elevated life.